Everyone, welcome back to Chat with Traders Community. This is your host, Ian Cox, and today we're doing a part 2 interview with Peter Kallas. The first interview we had with him was back on December 5th, where he talked about his journey from a discretionary trader to automated trading. And I would recommend you all to listen to that if you hadn't had a chance to get in-depth background on Peter. And Peter, how have you been in the last few months?
Doing well, plugging away, staying busy with more programming, more trading. So things have been going really well. Excited to kick off the new year here with a solid approach to the market and continuing to find edge, build edge, and test and deploy strategies. So it's been a whirlwind of a month already. Can't believe we're already in February now. But excited to be here and discuss a little bit more about what I'm doing and hopefully provide some value along the way to the audience here.
Great. During this presentation, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat window and we'll get to your question. We encourage, interrupt at any time. We'll get your questions in. So go ahead, Peter, fill us in on your latest.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share a screen here. I did put together a couple of slides and an agenda just to kind of keep us on track here a little bit better today. Just bear with me. Let me get this thing started. And then let me come back to Zoom and share my screen here. Share screen. Share. All right. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So I don't know if we have anybody in the audience who I spoke with last session that we did, but excited to be back here today. Really, the first session, we talked a little bit about my background in discretionary trading and how I transitioned over to automated trading. Throughout this journey, I developed out a lot of analytics that helped me quantify my strategies. So I am a very systematic trader. It's something that nowadays I'm not really doing any sort of discretionary trading. It's pretty much all automated. And as I explained in the first session, really throughout my journey, I needed a way to quantify my strategies. So I built out all of the scripts for this. And this is something that we've actually turned into a platform over the last year. So we're going to talk a little bit about this today. So the agenda for the next hour, I'd like to give just a brief introduction about my background from my professional career to my trading background so that you guys have a better understanding of what that looks like. I'll also share some personal interests of mine just so you kind of get a big picture of my background. From this point, we're going to shift over and we're going to talk about some automated trading. This is something that I've completely developed my system from scratch. Everything's written in Python. There's many different components to my system. And so I figured I'd give everybody just a high level overview of what some of the components look like. I'm trying to keep it high level here for today's discussion, but if there's questions around any specific component, feel free to just stop me. We can have a conversation about it if there's something that interests you there. So once I go over the different components, we'll talk through the approach that I take to the market. Everybody has their own approach, and the approach that is right for you might not be right for me and vice versa. So just keep that in mind. I'm just trying to share openly what I'm doing. And if there's any suggestions that you guys have on something that maybe I'm missing or maybe I should be doing differently, then I'm certainly open to any constructive feedback as well. So once we get through that, we'll talk a little bit more about Market Jungle, which is my company here. Market Jungle is basically an analytics platform. It's something that I'm using in my trading approach to help me quantify my strategies. It helps me with back testing, forward testing, understanding when my edges are changing, so on and so forth. So I think the bulk of today will be focused on that, but the lead up to it, we'll get into some of the automated trading pieces. Once we get through all this, we'll have a section for Q&A and a bonus at the end. So just to kind of give everybody a little bit of my background, my whole professional career actually hasn't been focused on trading. Trading is something that I picked up over the last 5, 6, 7 years, something along those lines. Really, my professional career was in heating and air conditioning, where I started out as an HVAC technician, and then I ended up going to work for a couple different manufacturers. You can see I work for Train Carrier, and I'm actually currently with Daikin as well right now. And this is something that my professional career I've been able to scale over the years And then over the last 5 years or so, I really got interested in trading once I saw the challenge of it. It was something that with my professional career and other things that I've done in my life, I felt like I was always able to overcome those challenges pretty easily. And trading was one of those things that really was difficult for me. And it's something that it's very retrospective, and it's something where you're always constantly looking at yourself and trying to figure out how to improve. But one of the things that really drew me towards it was the idea of having no ceiling. You're basically, your performance and everything, it is really based upon you and how you execute. So that was one of the things that really appealed me about learning how to trade. So if we look at my trading career, I did trade for a prop firm for a little while. I was trading for TradeNet when they were in the North American market. And then after TradeNet, I was with them for maybe 2 years or so early on in my career with trading. After that, I was retail trading with my personal capital. Then I ended up transitioning and I built out my fully automated trading system. And now that's what's trading my personal capital. And then more recently in the last year, Market Jungle is another initiative for me that I'm working to start up. Now, just a couple other interests of mine. Again, just kind of showing you the full background. I'm a very creative person. I don't know if anybody's heard of Red Bull Flu Tag, but this is something that I actually designed this aircraft here. I'm calling it aircraft. It's really not. It's a pedal tavern here in downtown Nashville where we pushed it off a ramp, and we're basically competing to see who could fly the furthest. So I have a strong background in engineering. And you can see here, these are some other items that I've built. This is a 3D printer I built, a CNC I built. This was a prosthetic arm here that I built for a STEM program for one of the local colleges here in Nashville. So enough about me, let's talk about trading. All right, so the first thing we're gonna jump into is the automated trading side of things. What you see here is essentially a high-level overview of the components of my system. So really, it all starts with some sort of stocks entering my system. And so these stocks are either coming from a scanner that I've pre-configured, or it's coming from a fixed symbol. So there's essentially two ways that I can ingest a particular stock into my system. Some of my strategies are focused on marrying a scanner with execution parameters or rules. Other of my strategies are focused on executing on just one stock, where I could say BABA, for instance. I want to build a model and understand how this model works on BABA and execute on it. Or I can say I want to scan for a particular setup, and I want to build this model to execute on this particular setup. So an example would be creating a scanner for a cup and handle, and then creating execution parameters around how do I trade a cup and handle, if we're just talking classical patterns here. So I have a component essentially that allows me to customize scanners or predefined fixed symbols that I want to pass into my system. My system's made up of a few different pieces. And again, this is really high level. There's a whole lot more to it than this. So if there's questions, again, just stop me, we can talk through them. At its highest level, I really have an execution system. This ingests a particular stock that is picked up by a scanner, or a fixed stock that gets that comes into this system right here. The execution system is made up of multiple subcomponents. So within the execution system, I have memory that tracks the trade itself. So it knows like the price I went in, the price that I'm coming out on a target or a stop. I'm tracking the amount of capital that's being used on all of the different trades. There's quite a few things that I'm using memory for. There's also some sub-modules within my execution system. So a main sub-module would be a way to generate signals. So if I have a particular stock that comes into my execution system, I need to find a way to execute on that particular stock. And that's essentially this module right here, which is my signal generator. Once a signal is generated, I also need a way to process it. So that's what the signal processor is for. So essentially, if I generate a buy or sell signal, that's going to be passed over to my signal processor, where my signal processor is going to leverage an API to my broker and place that particular order with my broker. There's also a lot of supporting libraries that I'm using. Some of them I've developed myself, some of them are third party. As well as there's, in my system, I have a signal optimizer. So every morning when it starts, I'm leveraging Market Jungle and I've built out an API for it that I'm talking with to look at all of my strategies, and my system will self-optimize its signals based on the analytics that's coming from Market Jungle. So this just scratches the surface here. There's so many other pieces to it, but I wanted to just try and think about this from a high level perspective. What does it look like, and give some insight into my methodology and what my system looks like. I also have a streamer up here. And so once a symbol is passed to my execution system, it's also passed to my streamer. And this streamer essentially can stream up to 120 stocks at a time. And it will stream ticker data, level 2 data and the tape into my system. So I'm not only just looking at candles on different aggregation periods, I'm also streaming in, like I said, live. I'm streaming in the tape and level 2, so I can look at market depth and look to try and spot absorption programmatically if I choose to, or whatever the case may be, whatever your strategy is here. So that's kind of this central area here. The last thing I have as part of my system is my analytics, and that's where Market Jungle comes into play. Like I said, it started out early on as scripts that I just developed that was running in the console. But since then, we've really elaborated on this, and we've built out a full user interface for it. So I'm going to pause here just for a minute here. Any questions so far?
You mentioned your streamer can process 120 ticker symbols at a time, or is that correct? So it'll go through pretty much the entire market in a certain period of time, or how long does it take for it to process 120 ticker symbols?
Yeah, so essentially my scanners over here on the left-hand side, that's what's actually looking at the entire stock market, and I'm filtering the whole market down to a particular setup. So my scanners are typically programmed to find a setup, and then my scanner passes those particular symbols into the execution and streamer. The streamer, its only purpose is to collect level 2 data and the tape data. That's kind of the purpose of the streamer. It's only going to collect that information for the stocks that were passed to it. So when my system, it starts up every morning, and when it starts up in the morning, it doesn't know what stocks it's going to trade until those stocks hit my scanner. So it's dynamic in the fact that as that scanner picks up on a particular setup, it's going to pass it over to the streamer and the execution system simultaneously. And at that time, the streamer is going to say, all right, we just picked up the stock. Let me start streaming the data into the execution system so that I have data to execute on. So I know what the level 2 and the tape is, so I can leverage that information in my rules on how I want to buy and sell.
Got it.
At the end of every day, the streamer, all of the data that's in the streamer gets cleared out, and everything kind of resets for the next day. And at night, there's like a shutdown procedure where it wipes out everything and resets itself, and then it shuts itself down for the nighttime. And then it starts up at like 7:30 in the morning, Central Time, and that's when it will start to scan everything and start to understand what it wants to trade. So every single day, if it's trading off the scanner, it could be trading different stocks every day. If it's trading off a fixed symbol, it's just going to sit there on those fixed symbols and wait for the order, or for the parameters to be true to execute if I have a fixed symbol feeding into it.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, continue.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is just the approach here. And this is just to maybe add a little bit more value. I think everybody has their own approach. And this is, again, I'm trying to keep it really high level. We could dive into each one of these items and spend way more time than we have today talking about one of these. But essentially what my approach is here is I'm going to go ahead and try and develop a strategy. And these are things, I'm going to start with some sort of an idea that I have, where it's either a momentum strategy or it's a mean reversion strategy. I'm going to look to see, are there patterns that I want to try and capitalize on, or that I'm seeing in the market? What am I able to see in the market for edge? So once I have an idea of an approach that I want to take when I'm developing a strategy, which could be like an opening drive, it could be trading a mean reversion strategy over lunch session. It could be using statistics to quantify a particular setup and really leveraging the statistics as my approach. So there's many ways to develop a strategy, but once you develop a strategy, it's something that I am backtesting that strategy. I want to understand on the historical data, how is this strategy working? In my system, I've built out the ability to inject itself with historical data so I can actually do simulations of the market, and I can simulate my scanners, and I can simulate literally the entire market. So it's set up where I can inject my system with the scanners with historical data across the entire market so that I can test from end to end. I can test my scanners picking up the stocks all the way through my execution parameters. When it comes to discretionary trading, this could be as simple as using like Thinkorswim paper trading and taking some trades and then running some analytics on it. So it doesn't have to be as complex as what I'm doing. You could keep it really simple if you're discretionary trading. In my approach, once I've back tested something and it looks okay to me, I then load it into my execution system. I let it run for 30, 60, 90 days, and I just collect data on it. It's something that it's forward testing. That's this block right here, which means that I am paper trading it and I'm accounting for things that I couldn't account for with a back test, such as spread and some other items. Once I get done with a forward test, I typically look at I compare my back test to my forward test, and I see if there's a huge deviation between the analytics here. If there is, that tells me that I may have been way over optimized on a back test. If they're roughly the same, then I can make the decision, do I want to trade with live capital or not? If I do trade with live capital, I don't just go guns blazing right out of the gate. I try to scale it up. So I'll start with a small amount of capital, and as long as the statistics continue to prove themselves and match what my tests show, I'll continue to scale from that point up. And that's kind of what this last piece is I have a feedback loop in my system where I'm continually looking at analytics, and a lot of people feel as though they make money by sitting in front of a computer and having trades on all the time. And what I find is I spend more time on my process in my system than I do actually making the trades. I just come to the market to place orders based on my framework that I've built. And whether I'm in the market or not in the market, it doesn't matter to me. It's something that I'm waiting for these opportunities that I've quantified. All right. So what did I find along this journey from going between discretionary trading to automated trading to building out Market Jungle? There's many problems that I see a lot of traders struggle with. And these are problems I struggled with too. One of them is understanding your edge. If you don't understand your edge, you're really gambling. You should have some sort of an idea of what your edge is in the market. I've also found that a lot of professional traders have access to really high cost technology, and it's the barriers to entry for retail traders is much it's much higher than professional traders. And I've also found that retail traders understand that they should backtest strategies, but they don't really know how to go about it. They don't understand what statistics they should be looking at. And what statistic looks good, what one looks bad, what should I look at first, what should I look at last, so on and so forth. There's also a lot of problems around when market conditions change. You could have a strategy that works great in a bull market, but doesn't work well in a sideways market or a bear market. And a lot of retail traders, in my opinion, don't take the time to understand their strategies well enough, or even create a strategy and know that one strategy well enough to know how does it perform in the different market conditions. I've also found that a lot of traders don't enjoy staring at a screen all day long. And then lastly, psychology impacts your trading P&L significantly. This is something that I shared on the first session that we had, and it's something that I personally struggle with many psychological challenges, and that's honestly why I went towards automated trading. So these are just some of the problems that I find a lot of traders struggle with. And so Market Jungle was really built around these problems, where we've allowed traders to import their trades and get personal insights on their own trading. We've allowed them to track their psychology, and we're expanding on this piece quite a bit more here in the future. We're allowing them to be able to backtest strategies where they can go in and they can paper trade with Thinkorswim and then upload those paper trades to our system to quantify it so that they can understand what is their edge before they even risk money. We're also giving them the flexibility to optimize those strategies and work with the tool to further improve the performance of the particular strategy. We're giving them the ability to understand how those strategies work in different market conditions. We're allowing users to understand when is the best time to trade a particular strategy so they can reduce their screen time. Another big item here is I know that a lot of beginning retail traders like to purchase signal services, and this is something that you never really know how well that signal service is doing. And so one of the benefits that our tool allows users to do is you can test signal services if that's your thing. It's not personally my thing, but you can go in and you can paper trade some of the signal services and quantify them before you start risking money on them. So there's quite a few different excuse me, there's quite a few different benefits that we try to address with these problems. So really with our tool, and I'm going to bring it up here on the next slide, but you import your trades, you can tag your strategies and market conditions, and then we offer a bunch of analytics. So let me stop right here and let me bring this over. Can you see my browser here?
Yes.
All right, so we're just at marketjungle.io. Let me log in here to a demo. Now, I'm going to preface this demo with we are a brand new startup. The company is just myself and a couple freelancers. So we are working with the initial sets of users that are joining up with us to really understand how we can continue to create value. We have a very big vision on where we're going with this, but we are still very early stages. So just wanted to let everybody know about that as well. All right. I'm going to give a quick demo here. So when you first come in, all of this is going to be blank. You can come over to import trades. You can select a broker that we're integrated with, or you can use a generic import here. This broker list is continually expanding based on when new users come aboard and they have a particular broker they're using. It takes us about 1 or 2 days to build an integration for a broker. So if you don't see a broker in here, you can click other and upload your file, and then we'll build a parser for that particular broker. Like I said, within a couple of days, it'll be live. If there's not a broker in here and you want to get started, you can use a generic import feature here. This allows you to download an Excel spreadsheet template where you can just put your trades in and upload them. If you're integrated with a broker like Thinkorswim, for instance, you can just go to Thinkorswim, export your history, drop it in here, and that will upload all of your trades into our system for whatever time period you've selected. Once your trades are uploaded, you will see them here underneath this trades view, and all of these different tabs will be populated essentially. Let's see. Let's cover the journal first. So once you have trades uploaded, you can, we have a feature in here for a daily journal. This helps you track what you did right, what you did wrong. You can go ahead and give yourself a little rating on the day around what your psychology was for the day. Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you in between? And eventually we're working to expand this out to show a correlation between your emotion and P&L. That's something that's not built out yet, but it's something that we're working on. You'll be able to see the different trades for the particular day over here. You can also see all of the trades that you have in the system here and delete them or go in to see more details. If we wanted to go in and see more details on a particular trade, you can click this little button over here. And when you do this, you'll get a candlestick chart showing the actual execution. And this is dummy data here, just a FYI. In the live version, we actually are showing where your execution points are on the chart. And I'll cover that here in a little bit more detail in a couple minutes. So once we get to this page, it allows you to add any sort of tags that you want. So if I wanted to, I could add a cup and handle, and that could be a particular tag. Tags can be anything that you want them to be. So many times the way I'm using this is I have a name for a particular strategy, and I end up putting that strategy name in here. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to segment all of my trading, and it's going to allow me to filter by this particular tag and look at, in this example, a cup and handle with blinders on. So I can filter out all of my other trading history, and I can just look at my cup and handles and see how well did this particular setup work or this strategy. Again, you can name it whatever you want. You can have as many tags as you want. It's fully customizable. In the in a live account without dummy data, it's going to also show you where it's going to put diamonds on here or triangles on here and show you where did you actually enter and sell on, or buy and sell on the particular chart. So what's useful here is if you take cup and handles, say that's a setup that you really like to trade, you can go tag each one of those cup and handles. You can filter by the cup and handle, and then you can go look and see over the last 10 or 15 cup and handle executions that I took, was my entry good? Was my exits good? Was I early? Was I late? And you can kind of look at it with over a lump sum of 10, 20, 30 trades, however many you want. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this tag here just as the example. So in this particular example, I can put a tag in. I can put in any sort of notes here that I want around how well did I execute? What was the catalyst? Why did I decide to take the trade? It's essentially an online journal. If I have any tags in here, I can come over to this filter button and I can search by those tags. So I can go cup and handle. That's the tag I just added, submit. And you can see now I've just filtered all of my trades by the 2 cup and handle strategies that I've taken. And whenever you have a filter applied, it's going to cascade across all of these tabs. So if I come back over to the overview, what I see for this here is it's just showing those 2 days that are the cup and handles were traded on. And so all of these graphs are going to be based on that particular setup. Now let me just come in here and clear this. So that's essentially what this view is used for. Now I'll go into a couple of other items here. So I'm going to expand this out to the last, let's see, I'm going to do a date here. Let's go November to today. So if I zoom this out, I feel like a lot of people's P&L curve looks something like this in the beginning, where you're essentially continuing to lose money. And so there's many different things you can glean from this view. And let me go back a little bit more here. So one of the things that I can point out here that's very easy to see is on this particular day, I lost $12,400 in this example. If I look at this day, I lost, this is significantly bigger bar than all of these other days. So one of the first things that I'd be wondering is what happened on this day. So I can go look at those particular trades and see what happened. I could also say, you know, I really shouldn't be losing this much money in the day. I need to try and find a daily stop loss limit where I say, if I lose this much money in the day, I'm done. And if I was looking at this here, I would consider this to be an outlier. And I would say that I would want to have a daily stop loss somewhere around $5,000–6,000.
How much capital, if you don't mind me asking, how much capital are you working with in this particular example?
So in this example, this was actually randomized data. I can't remember what the parameters were that were put into this. Mm-hmm. The way I typically determine a daily stop loss would be off my risk unit. So personally, the way I'm handling it is I'm looking at what is my average. Well, let me back up here. I'm looking at what is my average winning day. And if my average winning day is $3,000 or $100 or $50, whatever it is, I'm going to go and I'm going to say, all right, on a day that's really bad for me, how many days do I want it to take for me to make up what I lost? So if my average winning day is $100, just for the sake of an easy example, I would say I want my daily stop loss to be $200 or $300. And what that means is that it's only going to take me 2 or 3 days to recoup any money I lost on my worst day possible. So that's my approach to it.
I see. And the daily volume below, is that the amount of new capital that's committed on that particular day? Or what does that mean? 4,000, 3,000?
Yep, that's going to be the number of shares that were executed across all of the trades in that particular day.
Oh, for all the stocks that are in that strategy, you're saying cumulative.
Yep. So in this example right here, I don't have any filters. So this is all of my trades. Mm-hmm. And this would mean that I traded through 4,236 shares on that particular day.
I see. So but the average weighted price could vary significantly from day to day.
Could you ask that question in a different way? I'm not sure I understood it.
Okay. So that's 4,000 total shares of all the stocks, or is that we're
Yep.
talking about just one stock?
All the stocks. So if I came back to the journal here, these are all grouped by day. So on this particular day, 2 trades were taken, Microsoft and Oracle. So if there was 100 shares here and 100 shares here, for this day, it would show 200 shares.
Got
Excuse me, it actually show 400 because it's round trip. It's showing
right.
in and out.
Okay, great.
So again, this is just an example. Now, if we start to track our trades, this is really where the power comes in. So I'll give you an example. Say I trade opening drives, and in this example, this is all of my trades that I've taken. And I want to go look at how's my opening drive strategy doing. I can come in and I can put an opening drive, and I can go look at that particular strategy. And if I start looking at the data here, I'm like, wow, this is looking a hell of a lot better. Excuse my language. This is looking a lot better than the last, my overall trading performance, right? I have an uptrend essentially in this particular strategy. So an insight I could glean from this is, why am I doing everything else when I know this strategy is trending up right now? I should be focusing on this particular strategy and doing a lot less of everything else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially what this is going to be allowing you to do is, if you have 5 different strategies, you can filter by each one of those strategies and see what that P&L curve looks like for that particular strategy. You can also add tags, and this is something that I personally do. I have rules around how I classify the market regime. So it could be something as simple as, if the price is above the 200 moving average, it's a bull market. If it's below, it's a bear market. Or you could classify the market as, today, when I took this trade, the S&P 500 was green or red. In this example, I'll go market bull. So I can come in and I can say, all right, I want to see how my opening drive strategy worked in a bull market. And if I filter here, I can say, wow, it's really performing well in a bull market. And then I can come in and I can say, all right, well, what's it doing in a sideways market? I can come filter by that. And I can say, well, it's really just kind of moving sideways in a sideways market. So if I have rules on quantifying the market regime, I then am empowering myself, and I know that if the market's moving sideways, I can look to scale this strategy down, or I can not even trade it in a sideways market when those conditions are present. Now, this gets a lot more in depth here once we get to the statistics tab. And let me come over here now. So if we are developing a strategy or testing a strategy or live, these statistics will help you out. Right now, we are still filtered by this one particular strategy, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. You can look at these statistics with everything or filtered down by a particular strategy. If you don't even know what your strategy is, you can, if you trade pullbacks and breakouts, you can start there and you can tag, hey, this trade was a pullback, this trade was a breakout, and you can start to understand which one am I better at. So it doesn't, I'm trying to show you how in depth you can go with this, but you can also keep it really, really simple and just say, I trade breakouts a lot better than I trade pullbacks, or breakouts are working better than pullbacks, or vice versa. So there's many different ways you can approach it, is my point. So under the performance tab here, it'll show you your total gain and loss. It'll show you your average winning trades. So in this case, I would come in here and I'd say, what's my average winning trade? It's, call it $2,000. So I would put a daily stop loss around probably $4,000 to $6,000. And that would ensure that on my worst day, I'm only giving back 2 average days of trading, and it's going to allow me to continue making up any losses a lot easier that way. One of the things, and this isn't a great example for it since this is dummy data in here, but this average holding time, winning and losing, this is really an interesting thing to look at as well. And typically what I look for in my own personal trading is I want my average winning time to be at least twice as large as my losing. And everybody's probably heard the old adage of cut your losses quickly, let your winners run. That's essentially what this is measuring. And so if I look at some of my personal strategies, I have a strategy where my average losing time is less than 5 minutes and my winning time is 22 minutes. And really that just tells me that I am holding on to my winners on average longer than my losers. if I'm finding that those numbers are really close to one another, that would tell me, and it would indicate that there's an area for opportunity for me to try to hold on to my winning trades a little bit longer or cut my losing trades a little bit quicker. We also have the win rate in here. So the win rate is very important when trying to develop a system, and it goes hand in hand with your profit factor, which is essentially your risk to reward. It's your cumulative risk to reward in essence. So I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with risk to reward. So this basically means if I'm risking $100 from my entry to my stop, I want to make at least $200 from my entry to target. That would be a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. If I was trying to make $300, that'd be a 1 to 3. Now, there's a correlation between win rate and risk to reward. So the higher the risk to reward, the lower your win rate's going to be. So it's good to try and find a happy medium there, as well as look at how does that play into your psychology as well. So if you're an individual who doesn't like losing a lot, then you're probably going to want a higher win rate. In order to achieve that, you're probably going to have to run a smaller risk to reward. So this is something that we help traders understand. So your win rate is right here, and then under risk management, your profit factor is right here. So this is basically telling me that my winning trades on average across all of my trades are 2.12 times bigger than my losses, is what this is showing me. So with this strategy, it's a 1 to 2 risk to reward. And my win rate is 47%. So since I'm above 33%, I'm making money. There's quite a few other risk metrics in here. And then there's also the ability where we quantify drawdowns. And the drawdowns piece is really good when you're testing a strategy, because if you test it over a long enough period of time, you can understand what is the average drawdown and what is the maximum drawdown. And really what I use this for is I ask myself, do I have the psychology where if I hit this max drawdown amount, can I continue to execute this strategy without deviating from the plan? If the answer to that question is no, then you should consider either adjusting the strategy or scaling back your risk, so that when you do get into a drawdown period, you know that when you get to your maximum drawdown amount or around that area, you still have the psychology to continue to put on that trade and continue to execute properly. If you can't do that, then it's something that your psychology isn't strong enough to trade this strategy or whatever strategy you're looking at, and you should consider changing it a little bit to marry up your strategy with your psychology. Now, the last two items here is day times and price volume. So this is something I'm using every single day. When my automated trading system starts up, I'm essentially hitting this tool through our API, and I am getting these statistics data. I'm filtering it by the strategy tag, and these two next views I'm actually using to help self-optimize my system. And so every single day when my system starts up, it's crunching all of this number and it's looking at what's working, what's not working. In this example, as a discretionary trader, you would look at these visualizations and it's going to tell you where should you be focused, where should you be less focused. So in this example, it's showing me that I don't make any money on Mondays. So someone could interpret this and say, you know, I'm just going to take the day off on Mondays with this strategy and not trade it. I'm just going to trade Tuesday through Friday. That's one way to interpret this. I'm not so much using the day of week in my personal trading. I know some people do use this though, some of our members, but this performance by hour, this one's really big for me. So this one helps a trader reduce screen time. It helps you optimize a particular strategy. And really why this is useful is your market's broken up into 3 sessions. You have your morning session, your afternoon session, and your power hour at the end of the day. And different strategies work better based on the different times of day. So if you're trading a cup and handle all day, whenever that strategy is present or whenever the setup is present, what this is going to do is it's going to say, all right, I'm trading a cup and handle. I just filtered by cup and handle. What time of day does a cup and handle work best? Or in this case, it's opening drive. So I would look at this and I would say anything after 12 o'clock, there's no point in me even trading this strategy. Opening drive is really meant for capturing the momentum at the bell. And so in this example, I would stop even at after 11 o'clock here. I mean, this bar is pretty big here, but even this one right here could go red at some point. So anything 12 onwards, there's really no point in me continuing to trade this strategy.
I have a question.
So, yeah.
So the trade distribution by hour of day, are those that's an average for all 5 days that you have up there, Monday through Friday?
Yes.
Okay. And then the trade distribution by day of week, are those 3,000, 6,000, 9,000? Is that dollars value committed on that particular day? Because you have the performance profit and loss by day, right?
Yeah, I guess we got to add some tags down here. So that's a really good point. I didn't catch that earlier on. So this is the total dollar value of that day. So on Mondays over my filtered criteria. So right here on my filter, between 10-1 and 2-1, I have lost $6,581 on Monday on average. So this is all of my winning trades and all of my losing trades on Monday. So I'm segmenting Monday out, and I've lost that much money on Mondays. I've made this much money on Tuesdays. I've lost this much on Wednesdays, and so on.
I see. And on the left-hand side, Monday, it looks like you have a figure there about 3,000, a little over 3,472. What is that? Is that dollars committed? Is that shares? What is that?
Yep. So trade distribution by day of week. This is actually shares traded.
Okay. Have you considered possibly changing that to dollars committed? Because we don't know the that could be 3,000 shares of a $5 stock, or it could be $100 stock, and so we don't know how much capital was deployed on Monday to generate that level of loss, or how much capital was deployed on Tuesday to generate that much profit.
Yeah, that's an awesome point here, and like I kind of prefaced this conversation, it's a new platform, so feedback like this is super valuable. And if that's going to provide more value than looking at it from just shares, then absolutely, it's something that we can further expand this and include.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it.
Sure. Any questions from anyone else?
Yes.
Okay.
Backtracking a little bit, you mentioned that you could quantify the results of signal services and how well those perform. Have you ever heard of an automated strategy? Like I was with one 2020, 2021 that was options focused. And what I noticed was this guy would send a tweet, bought X amount of Apple 170 calls at this price. And as soon as he would send this tweet, that call would probably get 4,000 or 5,000 volume on it, like split second, just not even enough for a human reaction time to pull up an options change and look. And the implied volatility would skyrocket. And then more times than not, come right back down. And I always suspected that there was someone who was automating, following this guy's tweets and kind of just taking advantage of the human lag and scalping that implied volatility move. Is that a strategy you've ever heard of in automation?
It isn't, but being a programmer myself, I could certainly see how it could be deployed. So never heard of it, but it's very interesting comment there.
I ended because I didn't have much capital at the time, and I honestly just did that. Like I don't have any programming background, so that's how I traded his signals. Is I realized I could pull up the options chart, see how much volume was coming in, and I would take my 10 or 15% on the implied volatility pop and then get out. And then I was always like, man, whoever's automating this is just probably got the easiest income in the world.
Yeah, that's interesting, Nick. Yeah, I mean, myself, I'm constantly trying to find edge too, and would love to explore something with you like that in the future. But really, the intention of the third party piece was we started out, or I started out Market Jungle trying to do signal services, and so I was exporting out of my automated trading system, and I was putting that out there to people through Discord, and it's actually still on Discord now. We get our Discord group, and there's alerts going into it. But I found that I really wasn't providing value to traders, and a lot of people are using signal services, but a signal service can tell you when to buy and sell. It doesn't mean you're going to be profitable. And so I pivoted from that a couple, like a year and a half ago, and I said, you know, I really want to see how do we create like actual value, and not just say buy here, sell here. And that's when we decided to take the analytics here that I built for my system and try to build a web app around them. And I think the quantifying third party signal services is probably going to be a little controversial, because I think a lot of people put a signal service out there and may or may not put out how well it performs. But on the same side of things, I think with this tool, if you were to paper trade those, you could then go ahead and say, look, this is how well your signal service works, and it's great or it's horrible.
I think you would probably end up with a lot more horrible, because I always just see a lot of these, especially the high ego posting pictures on a boat is like they didn't really make it well trading, so they're going to sell a subpar trading system and then run off people paying them $200, $500 a month. Some of them are just ridiculous in price.
I think that's the thing. They're, in my opinion, they're selling a service to create consistency with their income, and the service is what's actually providing the income. And I didn't want to go down that same route. Like I said, I started to go down that route, and I'm like, this doesn't help anybody. Like, what's the point of this? And how do I put something out there that I can be proud of, that I feel like is actually providing value? And this is kind of where we're at with it at this point. And like I mentioned, we're trying to take any feedback that we have. So this is something that I try to focus on my trading, but I'm leveraging this, and I've hired a developer to help me with some of the front end stuff so that I can continue to focus on my trading. But those users who are using it, it's a pretty tight knit group right now, and it's something that we're continually talking and trying to figure out, okay, how can we improve this to help everybody?
Great. We have a question from Trade Journal.
Sure.
Does this work with a MT4 or 5 platform?
So current state, no, but we can add in any platform that we wish. So we have added quite a few platforms already. We just are kind of going through an official launch here last month and trying to get things moving forward. So the list of platforms that we're using is, I think, up to 5 or so now, but it's something that we're continually expanding, and I'm actually the one who's personally writing that code, so I can knock something out in like 2 days and get it deployed if needed. 2-3 days, as long as we have the data structure, we can knock out a parser for it and get it integrated.
Great.
There's a couple others that are in our pipeline right now. We're working through Schwab, and I think there's one other broker that we got in our pipeline right now that we're working on. But again, if it's something that's needed, we can go ahead and find a good way to integrate with them.
Great.
I have a question, Peter. Last time we talked in December, you mentioned about looking for feedback, or from traders who can actually help test the system. Is that something you're still open to?
I think so what we've been doing lately, we've really gone through a lot of the initial testing, and like 95 to 98% of the bugs we know of were all taken care of. So the initial pilot is pretty much over with at this point. But what we are doing is, for those users who were not integrated with their broker, it's something that, in order for us to build a parser, we need to understand what the export looks like. So we've been working with those individuals and providing either a discount or some sort of time in the platform in exchange to work with us to get integrated with the broker, because it's kind of one of those things, one hand washes the other. If they want to use a platform, great. And then the value that we get out of it is we're able to expand who we offer the service to as well. So in that particular case, if we're not connected with a broker and you're interested in leveraging this tool, then it's something that I'm 100% open to working with you on, trying to figure out how do we help each other out. So again, at this point, this is basically myself and some freelancers working on it. So we're very flexible in the beginning here, and just trying to work together with everybody.
Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to show here, and then we can go just to all Q&A here. We also have price and volume. So this one's important for me. So many times different strategies work on different market caps. And so what this tells me here is it shows me which price per share does this strategy work best on. So I might find that a particular strategy works great on $50 to $200, where it constantly loses money on small cap stuff. So this is another way to kind of understand what's working, what's not working. And the whole idea behind all of these is to say, all right, let me do some sort of a base strategy. Let me collect the data. Let me see what's working, what's not working. And then I'm just going to focus on what's working. And that's essentially, you're going through the process of defining your edge, finding your edge, and then focusing on it. And then once you have your edge and you're focused on it, you can continually monitor it. And so as you're adding more data into it, you can see how is it changing over time? Do I need to tweak it? Do I need to modify it? So on and so forth. So I think I got 2 more slides here. Now, this is just phase 1 of our project. Phase 2 is something that we're hoping to start developing here in the middle of the year. It's really going to require us to get some traction on phase 1 before we start phase 2. But phase 2's, we already have prototypes built, and this is something that we're going to be doing some additional testing with users on the prototype. Phase 2 is going to be where we expand this platform to leverage my automated trading system, but it's going to be built in a way where excuse me, users will be able to build their own strategies with a drag and drop flowchart, essentially. They'll be able to link to their particular account. They'll be able to back test strategies without knowing how to program. They'll be able to forward test strategies. They'll be able to deploy it on their own capital whenever they choose to. So that's going to be phase 2. And then phase 3, we're hoping to build a full community around this. And the idea there would be to allow users to license strategies to one another. And we're looking to hold different competitions around strategy development and different things there as well. So that's kind of our overall vision that we're going for over the next few years.
Do you have a time frame on when you're targeting phase 2 to be complete?
Yeah, so we, I've done some projections there. So based on the 5-year financial forecast plan that I put together, we were looking at starting the development in July timeframe. We're slightly behind right now. We're essentially trying to hit a certain number of quota every month to bring users on to help fund phase 2. So as long as we're able to hit the plan and the quota that we've set out to hit, then we'll be starting development in July-ish timeframe. From the back end side of things, all of that's developed because it's the system that I'm using. So the development should go pretty quick. It's something that I've been leveraging the system for 2 years, 3 years now, and working through all the bugs and everything. So mostly phase 2 will just be front end development. So I don't foresee it taking a whole lot of time once we kick off the development effort.
Great.
Let's see. And then the last thing I wanted to wrap up on before we go through, open it up to Q&As and wrap it up here. So we actually do have a free plan. So anybody who wants to just get in and fool around with it, there's no cost to it. There are limitations. You only get 30 transactions per month that you can execute, or excuse me, that you can upload. So there are limitations there, but you'll still be able to get a lot of the statistics out of it. So it's a good starting point for someone who doesn't want to spend any money. And then obviously, as you go up in the different plans, we're unlocking more features and allowing you to upload more transaction history. At the end of the day, though, to be honest with you, with the paid plans, there's so many people that don't understand their edge, they're gambling, and to be able to quantify it and put in the work up front, it's really it's almost so affordable. It's one of those things that it's almost like you can't not have it, because you can blow $49 on a trade super easily. Trust me, I've done it many times and a hell of a lot more than that. But having the tools is really important to understand your edge. And the last thing I wanted to share here with you guys, since you guys joined here today, I wanted to throw up a 50% off here if you guys choose to sign up, and as well as let you guys know, and I've mentioned it a couple times, it's a very small startup, and it's something that if you were to join up, we'd be in a lot more conversations together around what's working, what's not working, and it's something that I would certainly help to see how we can continue to provide as much value as we can. All right, what do we got for questions?
So if I did go back and look at what I told you about like scalping these signal implied volatility moves, does
Yeah.
your system allow for like reading, like pulling that information from Twitter and then going in and finding that option and executing?
So
So
the current phase one, no, phase one is all based around analytics. Now, when you want to move more towards an automated strategy, once we get enough user base on phase one and we start doing phase two development, we're looking at having customized blocks where you would be able to kind of use the predefined stuff to build a strategy, or if you want to get more advanced with it, we're looking at offering some ways where you can write your own logic within it as well and expand. So there might be some opportunity there to explore how do we integrate with different platforms. But Nick, to be honest with you, if you're not, if that's a strategy you want to develop, it's something that you're going to have to build some sort of a system to execute on it. I don't know of a system that would allow you that much flexibility without developing an automated trading system. And I think we spoke about that with the original interview I did. And there was a lot of questions around, why didn't I just use a third-party automation platform? And that's really the kicker there is you're limited to whatever that service you're using allows you to do. And so I chose to go this route because it's fully customizable. If you could think of a particular strategy or something you want to do, you can automate it essentially. Now, and then just to reiterate, phase one is just analytics, but phase two is going to be where we allow you to build strategies and automate them. And that's something that we are looking to see if we can find users to help us understand how we can create more value with a high fidelity prototype that we built. So maybe if you want to get together at some point, I can share with you what phase two is going to look like. And then we can also look at how would this be incorporated.
Great. Anyone else?
one more, how involved are some of your parameters? So let's say you wanted to trade a capitulation reversal where a stock is going down and down or up and up, volume's also increasing, and you want to automate a good reversal point. Is that just like a crazy amount of like if and then scenarios? Like you're like, if volume is constantly increasing, then start scanning and then enter once like bar one breaks bar two, or like how complicated do you think some of your strategies get on the if and then scenarios?
Can you still see my screen? Should be my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see here.
Because I think about automation sometime, and then I realize like how many variables I would like to see for one trade, and I'm like, well, if this doesn't align, then I want this to align. And
yeah, so this is my so I have two environments. This is my staging environment. So I have a staging environment. I have a production environment. My workflow is I do my development work. My development work is done here, and then all of my changes get pushed to the cloud to this staging server. So as I'm making changes, it goes into the staging server. The staging server runs and continues to track and execute on fake money. And this is to work out any sort of bugs. Once I know it's 100% in staging, then it gets moved to my production environment, which is a completely different environment that runs in parallel with the same code. But I want to make sure that if there's any bugs, I find those bugs before it actually goes into my production environment. So right now, I have many different strategies. This is one that's running right now. So you can see this is live. So this is a machine learning strategy that is one that I'm testing. It's running on Baba every 5 minutes. It's running on DK every 5 minutes. And this one's actually just based on indicators here. But I trained this machine learning model in a very particular way. And this right now is just running through, and it's checking for executions, and it's executing when it needs to, and I'm tracking those statistics. There's other strategies in here, like this is an extended, when it takes a trade, it'll look like this. So this is a extended down strategy I have, which is more based around statistics here. And this was the optimized version of the strategy that's running. And then it shows me like what was my purchase price, my target, my stop. So this is essentially my system altogether. But when I'm building a strategy, so this was one that I built a long time ago that it's something that's not as profitable as it was. It's actually losing money right now, so I don't have this one turned on, and I'm working to optimize this one right now with my platform. This is essentially what this particular code looks like. So this is 400 lines of code, so it's pretty in depth. My system, I've built it in a modular way, so this strategy is its own file, and when I save this file, it goes into a directory, and my execution system automatically picks up this particular strategy and loads itself into it if I were to add it. But essentially what I'm doing here, so this is just a simple example of a buy signal. So I'm checking this function here, and this is basically saying if my ask price is above the pre-market high. So this was a strategy I built where I was trying to enter a trade. There's conditions I have to find this particular stock, but it was trying to enter it when it broke the pre-market high. So I was quantifying the pre-market high. I was looking at my ask price, and when it crossed the pre-market high, that was one of the conditions that needed to be true. I couldn't be in the position. The price needed to be within the top 25% of the distribution. The position count had to be less than however many times it was traded. So this was forcing it to only take one trade per day on a symbol. And then this right here is right now. So the time right now needs to be less than the end time. So basically there's time parameters on this particular strategy.
Great. Thank you, Peter, for this great presentation. How can our members get in touch with you if they have questions or want to connect?
Yeah, so you can email me at peterkallas@marketjungle.io. That's one option. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, we're on Discord, we're on Twitter. So just search for Market Jungle on any social media platform and message me or shoot me an email.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is a great presentation. Thanks for coming on Chat with Traders Community.